Hello again. This is the US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and his Chinese counterpart, smiling and generally getting along at the G20 in Germany earlier this month. They also pledged a mutual commitment to improving their nations' ties. Just days later, though, a fleet of American warships was deployed in the South China Sea for what the US Navy called a routine patrol. But right before that, China finished similar exercises in the same waters. The US ships are now set to pass right by a series of contentious islands, leading to tension between the two countries. Well, the South China Sea has a long history of maritime disputes. Beijing claims almost all its surrounding waters are sovereign, but many regional powers, as well as America, disagree.
Island building in the South China Sea are illegal actions. They're taking territory or control or declaring control of territories that are not rightfully China's.
We urge the US side not to take any actions which challenge China's sovereignty and security.
Well, there are other issues that might get in the way of good relations between the two as well. After winning the US election, Donald Trump held a phone conversation with the leader of Taiwan, which angered China because it could mean a potential break with the One China policy, an approach that sees Washington uphold official diplomatic ties with Beijing, but not Taiwan. In its turn, the US blames Beijing for numerous cyber attacks, and it all comes at a time when China is seen to be challenging America's dominant position in the world.
President Trump has backtracked from his challenge of the one-China policy, and in his telephone call with President Xi, he's already reaffirmed the one-China policy. This suggests that America doesn't really want to go to war with China, because this is a really red line. It is not something negotiable. It is not something on the table. It's the table itself.
Well, the great thing about Donald Trump is you never know what he's going to do, right? That's kind of what he brings to the table. I think what he's looking to do, actually, is use the fact that he may look to backtrack off the One China policy, use that as a negotiating tack to get what he wants trade-wise, possibly even militarily. I think ultimately he will stick with the One China policy, but get concessions from Beijing for that.
American is putting a lot more on the military in the sense of forming military allies with a lot of China's neighbors and increasing the strength of what America calls the freedom of navigation, sending warships and patrolling more and more international waters very near to China's claimed sovereignty.
So funny hearing what Beijing's reaction to him doing that they were scared that he doesn't do anything to upset their sovereignty. They don't have sovereignty over those islands. They don't have sovereignty in the South China Sea outside the territorial waters. I don't know what they're talking about. He has every right to bring into the open seas any kind of either commercial or military ships and vessels.
A New Zealand court has upheld a 2015 ruling that states internet entrepreneur Kim.com is eligible for extradition to the US, along with a number of his associates. The judge decided that .com and 3 co-accused cannot be extradited on copyright infringement charges. However, there were, quote, general criminal law fraud provisions which make the extradition possible. Kim.com is a German-Finnish internet entrepreneur who founded the now defunct file hosting service Mega Upload. In the US, .com faces accusations of copyright infringement, money laundering and wire fraud. It's claimed he cost film studios and record companies in America more than $500 million. He denies the charges and has been fighting the US government's attempts to have him extradited for years. In 2013, Kim.com spoke to RT explaining the case against him.
The extradition law, the extradition treaty in New Zealand doesn't really allow extradition for copyright. So what they did, they threw some extra charges on top, and one of them is racketeering, where they basically say we are a mafia organization and we set up our internet business to basically be an organized crime network that was set up and structured the way it was just to do criminal copyright infringement. And anyone who has ever used Mega Upload or has any idea about how that website worked knows immediately that that is total nonsense. But they needed to chop that on in order to have even a chance for extradition. But in our opinion, you see, all of that, I think, was secondary. The primary goal was to take down Mega Upload and destroy it completely.